Gregor Mendel had been growing varieties of pea plant that had different characteristics, like whether the peas were wrinkled or smooth, yellow or green, whether the stems were tall or short.
Plant breeders had done that kind of thing many times before. What was extraordinary about Mendel was he repeated the experiment again and again and again. And even more critically, he wrote down the numbers of each kind of plant that he got in each generation.
Mendel treats plant breeding as a science. And he spots something very odd in the numbers he's written down. The ratio of tall plants to short, or wrinkled to smooth, is always the same. Nobody had ever noticed this before. These patterns hold vital clues to understanding inheritance. But for 35 years, nobody in the scientific community understands its significance. In 1884, Mendel dies, and his work disappears into obscurity. That is until the turn of the 20th century, when Mendel would gain his greatest champion, William Bateson. Bateson's a Cambridge University zoologist. Plants fascinate him, but he's more used to working with animals. He wants to see if he can find the same inheritance patterns in animals as Mendel got with his peas.
This is William Bateson's makeshift laboratory. For years, he runs a series of experiments wherever he can, in his own garden, even in a disused church. This is because the authorities at Cambridge University believe his work on understanding inheritance is incomprehensible and therefore futile. So his funding is pitiful.
Bateson's career at Cambridge had started as manager of the college kitchens. Hardly a promising sign of future success in science.
But if you have to say one thing about Bateson, he is tenacious. He has an unshakable belief that he is on the verge of discovering something of huge importance.
Ever since a colleague gave him a copy of Mendel's paper, Bateson's been hooked on inheritance. He wants to know if the patterns of inheritance Mendel got in peas are the result of a set of universal laws across the whole of the living world. And that includes plants. His plan is to crossbreed all kinds of different animals and to do the same for plants, a hugely laborious task. Without a team of helpers and no budget to pay for one, it will be impossible. But Bateson sees an opportunity to tap into an underused workforce on his doorstep. The students of Cambridge's Newnham College. They are the perfect workforce, fiercely intelligent, unemployed, and they're all female.
Bateson and the ladies get cracking, and they start by looking for patterns of inheritance in chickens. So this is the sort of experiment they do. They cross a black cockerel and a black hen and get a brood of chicks. But what intrigues them, surprises them, is that not all of the chicks are black. Some of them are white.
And the more times they repeat the experiment, the stranger it gets.
The ratio of black to white is always 3-to-1. Every time.
The parents must have passed down some instruction to cause this chick to be white and these ones to be black. Those elusive instructions we now know as genes. Genes are too small to be seen with the technology Bateson and his ladies had in their day. Genetics was a different kind of science. Bateson and his ladies use crossbreeding experiments and logic to make sense of the 3 black to 1 white ratio in their chickens.
So how can you get this 3-to-1 ratio? Well, we know that both of the parents contain the information for black feathers because they are both black. But we also know that somewhere hidden inside them there is information for white feathers because between them they can produce a white bird. So there must be at least 2 sets of information in each parent for feather colour, 1 black and 1 white. So Bateson tries to work out how those 2 pieces of information could lead to the 3-to-1 ratio. And this is how he did it. Imagine that a chick gets information for black feathers from its father and information for black feathers from its mother.
Or it could inherit black from dad and white from mum, or white from dad and black from mum.
Or finally, it could get information for white feathers from both of them.
Bateson and his team observed that breeding from a pair of black chickens always produces 3 black chicks for every white chick. To explain that observation, he has to make one final logical assumption.
Bateson deduces that the information for black feathers overrides the information for white. So in 3 of the chicks, you get black feathers. 1, 2, 3. Only when the chick gets information for white feathers from both of its parents and no instructions for black feathers do you get a white chick. And bingo, you have your 3-to-1, 3 black, 1 white ratio. Everywhere, in every species, the patterns are confirmed. And Bateson is blown away because he believes he has found the key to the mechanism by which all living creatures inherit the features that make them them. And the only way the ratios can be explained is if those features are passed down from generation to generation in discrete units of inheritance.
A new science is born. Bateson gives it the name by which we now know it: genetics. In a matter of years, Bateson has turned from marginal eccentric into international scientific superstar. He has proved that the strange numbers Mendel first saw in peas are the result of a set of universal genetic laws. These laws explain how animal and plant characteristics are inherited in past generations, and the same laws can now be used to predict how they will be inherited in future generations of plants.